What's going on, everybody? It is Wednesday, November 20th. I'm Spencer Schultz with the Exit 52 podcast here, sponsored by Jimmy's Famous Seafood. And I'm here to break down the Ravens' 2-point loss in Pittsburgh in their first matchup and to ask some questions about this Ravens team and what they need to do moving forward. I am a Wawa Gobbler enthusiast, as you can tell here. Going solo tonight, so feel free to like and subscribe first and foremost, but also to throw many and all questions, comments, things you want to get off your chest into the chat here. I'll probably go for about 20 or 30 minutes. So some folks asked me to go live. I didn't join in the instant analysis on Sunday, so wanted to hop in. The smoke has cleared in many ways, and a lot has circulated. I think what happens every time the Ravens lose at this point is that it's the consistent issue. Someone has to get fired. This Ravens team has really lofty expectations of themselves, but also fans, media have really high expectations of them. So following a loss that has looked and felt very similar to not just Steelers losses, as the Steelers have now won 8 out of 9 against the Baltimore Ravens, but also to some of these lower scoring games we've seen the Ravens lose in the playoffs. They lose 17-10 against the Chiefs in a game where they're battling at the end of the game. You can score a touchdown. You can tie the game. You can go for 2. You can. They lose. People always go back to that 2019 Titans game where another low scoring affair, turnovers, drops always pop up when the Ravens lose. And I think that is why the Ravens, to their fan base, are such a maddening team, and to media pundits as well, because they never get blown out, ever, hardly ever, especially since when Lamar Jackson is playing quarterback. They don't lose discerningly. They always have a shot, and that always just tugs and hurts a little bit more. So every time you see them lose, it's in dramatic fashion. It's on red zone. It's at the end of the red zone slate, or it's late in the fourth quarter, and you can never really just tune out. And they win a lot of those games, but every time they lose, that's exactly how they lose. It's down to the last possession. It feels like an NBA playoff game almost. Like it's something that rips you apart as a fan and is stressful. And the Ravens, when they lose these games, they don't lose them. I will give the Steelers a lot of credit. Peyton Wilson has an interception in this game. Sure, maybe it could have been a fumble. Sure, maybe whatever. Still was an amazing play. We saw Tony Jefferson make a play against Vance, whatever the hell his name was, the old Steelers tight, Vance McDonald, a few years ago. Similar, taking the ball away at the last second as they're going to the ground. Then you see Patrick Queen strip Isaiah Likely, and Ben Roethlisberger on his podcast brought up some points about why that is, why these things happen, why the Steelers, he didn't say this, but why effectively the Steelers feel like the Ravens' kryptonite. And his theory is that what he said was just that Mike Tomlin is in John Harbaugh's head. And when the Ravens go to Pittsburgh, they do the whole thing where the Ravens, when the fourth quarter in Pittsburgh happens, the Steelers start playing Renegade, and the Ravens, he said, are the first team I ever saw get hyped to it. They start jumping on the benches. They start waving the flags around, doing all those kinds of things. So it does feel forced in many ways. It does mean something more, and the Ravens do really want to win. And we see that start to permeate in good ways, and manifest is probably a better word, manifest in good ways. This Ravens defense, they got off the field over and over and over. This Ravens defense does not let the Steelers score 25, 30 points. They never really do when all things are healthy. So they buckled down. They manifested physicality. They did not let the Steelers out physical them. The Steelers did nothing to them. On third down, they got off the football field. They forced field goals. They thwarted fourth down conversions. The only real success that the Steelers had was on the final drive of the game when they were able to convert a first down, running the ball with Justin Fields and then Najee Harris picking up 1 yard. The Ravens defense stuffed the Steelers in on a 3rd and 1 and then a 4th and 1 consecutively to take the field back. They get an interception when the Steelers had an opportunity to score pretty much you can't catch us touchdown. It wasn't a go-ahead touchdown. It was a game over kind of touchdown. So that manifests defensively well, but it doesn't manifest offensively well. And we see the procedural penalties. The holdings are one thing. Holding is very subjective, and you can go into the deepest, darkest wormhole. What should be called holding? Why was this called holding? Why wasn't this? till we're blue in the face. You guys probably, if you listen, know that I often just say abolish holding. It's ridiculous. But illegal formations. There's an illegal formation on a 3rd and 6 that turns it into a 3rd and 11. The Ravens didn't convert the 3rd and 6 anyway. And that's some clips I wanted to pull up. And I think we just see what the difference is expressed so well on 3rd down. And the Ravens in this game, I believe, had 11 3rd downs, and 10 of them were 3rd and 6 or more. They didn't do a good job on 1st and 2nd down, and they didn't, because of that, they put more pressure on themselves. We see them adjust a little bit here. So I'm going to pull up some clips of what the Ravens did on 3rd down here. And so many times you'll notice they're behind the sticks. They threw the ball 10 times. It is 3rd and 6. Could you run the ball a little bit more? Yeah, absolutely. Did the Ravens run some screens? Yeah, not really on 3rd down, but they did at times. They're just weird about screens. They're weird about everything. So here we go. We can hop into it. Here's the first one. And what we're going to see a lot of is that the Steelers are going to consistently rush 4. The Ravens here, as we pause, have 3 routes. There are 3 guys downfield. There are 7 defenders in coverage. And the Steelers have a really, really, really disciplined unit in these kind of zone coverage. It's a lot of middle of the field close. They pretty much play cover 1, cover 3. A lot of it's cover 3. So we see the Ravens run all stops, which is a Greg Roman staple. And Sam Schwartzstein of Amazon Prime has asked me a couple times, what does Todd Monken do that Greg Roman didn't do? Which is a funny question. There's some things, but all stops. So the Ravens run 3 stops, hoping to find a window. And there's not really a window. So when there's not a window and you see the defenders drop out, there's 2 options for Lamar Jackson back there. You can either run or you can check the ball down. And so he starts to run. Bateman, they're still not. He could have flipped the ball to Isaiah Likely. He could have tried to press and see if he can do something special. Instead, he flips a tough catch into a tight window downfield. The Steelers get off the field on 3rd down. Now we see some trips, and there are 5 routes. Lamar gets the ball out quickly. Isaiah Likely has immediate quick separation. Instead, he likes his matchup, Zay Flowers and Joey Porter. You can get into, oh, this is inaccurate. Well, is it? I mean, Porter kind of hangs on to Flowers. Maybe Flowers looks for the ball too early. Maybe Lamar expects him to be in a different spot. Who knows? I don't know the answer. So it wasn't catchable. Is that on Lamar? Is that on the receiver? That requires more. But the Steelers do blitz here. And what you also notice is that when the pressure comes, Lamar throws to press man Joey Porter, which is okay. Zay Flowers a winner. They wanted to test, their guy, but Keaton Mitchell's uncovered at the bottom of the screen. There's no one on Keaton Mitchell. They didn't have anyone cover the back who goes in motion. And the reason he goes in motion is to tell me he's going to expand so that you can go over the middle. Usually you motion to the outside to go inside, kind of expanding the field. Isaiah Likely's there, just picked the wrong option when they did blitz. So they did pressure there, couldn't make the play. Wasn't a man beater there. Now we're going to see another one. The Ravens are just very worried about getting, on these 3rd downs, they were not confidently getting the ball out in rhythm at all. I'm going to show you 7 more where they don't convert until they do convert. So we see Mark Andrews stay in. We see Justice Hill stay in. 3 routes again. Andrews leaks. Maybe you want to fire the ball to him quickly because, again, it's 7 defenders deep in coverage. They are trying to take the middle of the field away. These corners, you'll notice, are both turned inwards so that they can play a seam ball. And so that up top, you can see where my cursor is up here, that he's able to break on the ball before Zay Flowers is. So get the ball out quickly. That is a lot of my solution. The other solutions are to run instead of plays. A lot of these are downfield concepts, vertical concepts. The other idea, what we're going to see here, I believe, is, nope, same thing, still stubborn. 2 routes on 3rd down. Now it's 2 routes. And this is where Lamar went to Rashad Bateman. It gets batted. I think there is a window there. I do think it would have beaten Patrick Queen, who was on it still. It still would have been a decently tight window there. You see Queen in the middle of the field jumping to the top of the screen at the 40 where Bateman is. But again, it's how many coverage defenders for how many routes. We've got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. And they're getting depth. They're getting to the sticks and beyond. Lamar Jackson has historically always pushed the ball past the sticks. And the Steelers have picked up on that. I think that is a lot of the issues. I'm not showing anything on 1st down. We can get into the issues there. But again, a lot of it was procedural penalties, mistakes, stupid things. So now we see again, now we see a little motion element, Zay Flowers. So what the Ravens did this time was run 3 routes from the same side of the field. So it's trips so that you'll have 3-on-3 or 3-on-4. However, none of those really broke to the vacated area of the field. So we see Lamar Jackson rolls out right a little bit. I don't know if this was by design to roll right. I don't know if someone was supposed to try to split the safety or go to the middle of the field. But now look how far this throw has to be. This throw needs to be really, 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 really long. Needs to get all the way across the field. So he steps up. Can he take off here? Sure. He ends up firing the ball here. Here's a little bit of space. He eventually finds it, but just can't get the ball there. And it felt like Lamar was really playing cautiously, turnover reverse. I don't think that's a bad thing, but we didn't really see him using his leg. I mean, look how much room there is. There's a blocker up here for this defender. Can take off to the sideline. I just didn't see him do that a lot. I think that could be a good thing, though, because you want him to do that later in the playoffs. Now I think we finally see the Ravens. Yep. We're going to see them finally run horizontal routes instead. The Steelers do crowd the line of scrimmage. They do blitz here. So Mark Andrews ends up with a little bit of a bluff here. Minka Fitzpatrick gets lulled to sleep by it at the bottom of the screen. And you run some horizontal routes. Quick out here at the 40. Andrews across. Instead of pushing to the sticks, they threw it short of the sticks. And look at that. Mark Andrews was able to run by it. So they did adjust. Did it take them too long? Yeah, a little bit. I think a little bit. They should have gone to that earlier, but they did. Now we see another example. It's that trips again. We can see them maybe not pushing, but ball should come out here. Andrews is kind of running an over the ball route. You're kind of in that weird field goal area. You're at the 36. Your kicker's obviously been struggling. The only real throw to me is probably to Andrews or Hill. And the Steelers run a stunt. It's a 4-man rush. McCary, who did have an awful game, did not pick it up well. Herbig, very explosive. You can see McCary, left guard, does not pass off. As soon as Lamar kind of realizes it's a little too late, could he have gotten the ball a little quicker? Sure, but that's being hypercritical. And he gets it to Justice Hill. It ends up being an incomplete pass. It hit the ground. So now we see them in tighter a little bit, which tells me they're probably going to run horizontal routes a little more, but they don't. They run the same kind of vertical stuff. They could have run the mesh. There's a lot of traffic to run mesh. If teams are going to play man and play middle of the field closed, you want to run mesh through here a lot. You want to cause traffic jams. And yeah, we have the comment here. It looks like 3rd and forever in every clip. Yeah, but the Steelers are doing the same thing and you're not consistently adjusting still. Run the mesh again. Just run mesh until they come out of it. It's working. It's working. It's working. So same deal. Lamar's running around. And this is what Ben Roethlisberger talked about. He said, he's like, what makes Lamar so special and so hard is that he can scramble for so long and you can't get him down. Someone will come open. It just didn't really happen easily. Who's open? The Steelers do a good job. Look at where their initial zones are and their spot drops. This safety, like look at these 5 playing cover 3. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. That's maybe not even cover 3. I don't know. But I don't know what it is. Yeah, probably cover 3. All right. So these 500, they kind of stay. They kind of stay in their zone. They still have this integrity. They expand a little. So the window is tough. They're cognizant of that. Aguilar's here, but now 91's in his face. So there's just not answers. The Steelers are really disciplined in those spot drops. So to me, it's running more traffic. That's why the Justice Hill rail route that got picked, it was a good call. The Steelers kind of knew it was coming and still couldn't stop it. Here we're going to see traffic get created by a tight release. All 3 of these receivers are going to kind of stay in the same area, and Bateman is just going to run. The ball comes out on time. Steelers are getting depth. Same deal. Same kind of spacing. Ball comes out on time. Bateman can break up field in rhythm. You need to be on rhythm. Gets a first down. And this is in the 4th quarter at this point. Took them until the 4th quarter to really feel like they caught any kind of rhythm here. See a similar look. Basically the same thing. Let's go back and look. All right. Bateman expands the trips, goes to become the number 3 from the number 1 or vice versa. Runs underneath of it. So now they're like, all right, that worked. Let's run the same thing. The Steelers are mugging kind of. He expands out. They're going to run a similar deal here. Zay Flowers does flash right open. Boom, right at the stick. 40 ball can come out. Lamar's drifting instead a little. Bateman comes open. Justice Hill flashes across the screen. I love what Justice Hill does here. He goes and chips. So it is really 3 routes again still. Andrews releases. Hill's going to break across the grain for Lamar and run to the space and is alert to the ball. Big block by Mark Andrews. So what were the big plays they had on third down? It was 2 passes that were maybe 3 yards downfield. Those were the plays that were successful for the Ravens. So maybe you need to get to that a little bit earlier. But again, third down, why were they in these positions? Like we had the comment that I just pulled up a minute ago, because they had penalties on first down over and over and over again. Derrick Henry had 4 touches taken away by penalties, had 17 touches for him in this game, finishes with 13 because 4 of them were called back. So the penalties are unacceptable. And, I think that Tucker, the misses hurt and all those things, but the ineligible man downfield and the illegal formation and the false starts, effectively all procedural penalties in Pittsburgh on the road. It's not going to have a good day. You're just not going to have a good day when you're consistently fucking up before the snap in terms of aligning correctly, staying set. And I think it ties into the point that I said Ben Roethlisberger made, that they're trying to hype themselves up. They're forcing this energy, it feels like, offensively. We're going to get him. We're going to go. I'm jumping on a fall. Zay Flowers. I'm going to go get him. I got to come out of the break. False start. I'm not set yet. Lamar snapped the ball before everyone was set. There's just this frantic energy. So the big criticisms always come from losses like this. And then it's like, well, Greg Roman was fired. And, so now Harbaugh is next to be fired. And I will say that is the worst thing. I think it's the energy. It feels like Mike Tomlin's on it. This is stupid. It's not X's and O's, but Mike Tomlin's on the other side. Mike Tomlin has his fucking aviators on, and he's cool as a cucumber, and he's smiling and he's laughing, and he's always calm. And John Harbaugh's just sitting there like his blood pressure is through the fucking roof, and he's like, you can feel it. It feels like his spirit is about to rip through his human flesh because he's so pent up and so ready to just pop. But he also doesn't. It just like stays at a 7 of anxiety the entire game. It just feels like every time you see John Harbaugh on the sideline, it's a 7. This is the John Harbaugh. If you're not listening, it's me gritting my face. So then Ben Roethlisberger also made a good point. He said that the Ravens probably had their 1 2-point conversion play that they loved, and they come out and show it, and Tomlin calls a timeout, and then the Ravens probably changed. They probably changed out of it. So I do think not having Derrick Henry on the field was egregious on that 2-point conversion, but I think that the penalties are the mind killer, the procedural penalties especially. The holding, like I said, I mean, Marshall Yanda, I think the most holding calls he ever had in a season was 3, and McCary had 2 in one game. McCary, Stanley, and Daniel Faalele have, I think, 6-3-3, 6-4-4. They have a dozen holdings between the 3 of them. So technique is probably bad. Sure, the holdings, again, I don't want to go into the whole holding thing, but to me, the procedural penalties are worse. And it just feels like indecision and anxiety lead to those. When you don't have confidence in getting the play in, you don't have confidence in what you're about to do. You don't have confidence being projected by your teammates, your coaches. Everyone around you is not just confident and calm. It's not conducive to consistency in sports or in life, in my opinion. So to me, that's the worst thing that John Harbaugh is doing, is just being anxious on the sideline. There's no, it feels like they're trying to manufacture something. We joke around on this podcast, kind of joke around about like the Ravens at home stadium experience. They try to manufacture Ray Lewis in the aggregate. They still try to manufacture confidence through action and forcing things, printing t-shirts that say finish, right? Like when you talk about something, it becomes a thing and makes you hyperfixate on it, and guys drop passes and do those kinds of things. So I think all of those are a big swirling combination of what makes this Ravens team lose. I do think that if they simply ran the football, like legitimate, like I think the Patriots played a game maybe 2 years ago where Mac Jones threw 3 passes and they ran the ball every other snap and they won. I think they could win that game against the Steelers. I think if they ran the ball 3-4 times in a row, over and over and over again, I think you could break their spirit. The Steelers the reason they won is because they had a disciplined secondary in coverage. And when you go look at the plays that were wiped off the board from those procedural penalties, let me see if I can find it. How many of them were a Derrick Henry run? 3, and a swing pass that went for 15 yards. The Steelers also had one wiped out, I think, which was an offside where they blew one up. The Steelers stuffed 2 runs in this game that they held to less than 3 yards. So when you get those penalties, those procedural penalties, when you do get those holdings, instead of just doing your best to let go, it's not even just that it's moving you behind the sticks. It is negating your run. It is negating your 5 yards of carry that you had. Or, hey, maybe it's a 3-yard gain. Maybe it's a 7-yard gain. Maybe it's a 10-yard gain. Maybe it's a stuff, whatever. But on average, against the Steelers, it was 5 yards a run. On the year, what is Henry? It's 6 yards per run. So you're wiping that out. You're getting behind the sticks. You're then more inclined not to run the ball. The Steelers don't want to face Lamar Jackson and Derrick Henry run game. They don't want you to have a lead. That would be bad. They would prefer that that's not the case. And because of those procedural penalties, you played into their hand. So the good news is that there's really 2 things that to me that happened. It's that the Ravens make the playoffs. They're 99.9%, maybe you can find ESPN FBI is 97%, whatever. They're 95+% chance likelihood to make the playoffs. The good news is that you already played the Chiefs, who do the same thing. They play a lot of man coverage. They're really disciplined. I don't think you have great man beaters consistently against the Chiefs and the Steelers, an area of improvement, but you already lost to the Chiefs. You play the Steelers the first time. They do the same shit they've always done to you, being disciplined on the back end, preventing those massive plays from happening downfield. You started to adjust to it, get the ball out quick. Then you get the DBs to creep up, run the ball, don't fucking jump offside and have illegal formation, all those things. You'll get the DBs. They'll start to come up. Just that is human psyche. If you start ripping the ball out quickly, getting it out on time, running the ball, the DBs will shift onto their toes instead of being neutral. They will creep forward. They will lean in. They will want to stop the run. Boom. Then you can hit it over their head. So can you learn from that? Can you learn from your loss to the Chiefs and your loss to the Steelers? I'll throw the Browns in there. The Browns play a lot of man coverage. They're physical. The Browns, I think, punched the Ravens in the mouth offensively more than any other team. The Bengals did a bit in that first one. The Ravens still ended up ripping them apart. But I think the Browns punched you in the face, tripped you, kicked you, bit you, even more than the Steelers did, even though the Ravens scored more points, whatever. But can you adjust? Can you calm down? Can you change? And I don't know that what I'm talking about, I guarantee John Harbaugh will not. He is not going to change who he is. He has been in Baltimore nearly 2 decades. Whatever his current state is on the sideline, chewing his nails, folding his arms, making those faces all the time, that energy is not going to change. When they finally score, it's like this big release. Then you see him grab Lamar. I love you, Lamar. And they hug and all those things. It's going to be the same. But schematically, can you run the ball? Can you cut down on the penalties? The Ravens have their bye week still before they play the Steelers next. That's going to be a big deal. And then when we open it up outside of the offense, outside of maybe a little bit of that John Harbaugh conversation, the Ravens have had a game of whack-a-mole going. And unfortunately, rest in peace, their offensive line coach, Joe D'Alessandro, passes away this offseason. Now there's an issue. We need to find a new offensive line coach. You were already worried about your offensive line. The Ravens have shuffled their offensive line. Oh, Rosengarten's rotating in with McCary. Oh, now McCary's playing left guard. All right, Rosengarten. Okay. It felt like you finally started to calm that down. They are still, in my opinion, not a good unit, despite whatever composite on Twitter you want to throw at me. They chip more than any team in football. We just watch them. Todd Monken wants to be able to run 5-man route concepts a lot, but they can't. They have a rookie right tackle. They have a, green right guard. And so they chip a lot. When you do that, it makes there be more coverage defenders for every route, and the math changes. So that game of whack-a-mole, you kind of got to an average place in a good way. Okay, the offensive line is stable. We have our 5 now. Then their defense completely crumbled and folded. Marcus Williams, Eddie Jackson, you're letting up the most big plays in football. So now the whack-a-mole is a dam ripping open, and the dam is your defense, and Jamar Chase has 426 yards against you in 2 games, and your second-year linebackers not playing very well next to Roquan Smith. And do you feel good about Roquan Smith? And the pass rush has been a little inconsistent. So then you turn from, probably John Harbaugh, probably a lot of the available staff. And I think that's why they bring in Dean Pease. They needed to rush to patch up their defense. So now it's like, okay, well, Kyle Hamilton or Darius Washington playing safety. You go get Trey White. Maybe he ends up playing more than Brandon Stevens. Now you've got some competition going on. You might be able to rotate some guys, get them in better situations. Okay, the Wack-a-mole, hopefully those guys stay healthy. Kyle Hamilton's been playing with a sprained ankle for 2 weeks, but hopefully the Wack-a-mole, the eye of Sauron of the coaching staff, can relent from the defense a little bit. Now it can swing back to growth. Your hope is that going forward and into the bye week, you're able to add wrinkles to your offense, expand your offense, trim fat, self-evaluate more, focus on growth as opposed to retention and mitigating loss. So have you learned your lesson? Have you picked up on the things that maybe you've done psychologically, maybe the things that you've done schematically that have prevented you from beating the Steelers and the Chiefs, who play pretty similar style defense, I would say? They've got some, good pass rushers, good discipline. They tackle well. They're pretty damn good defenses. They have same coverage tendencies. Spagnuolo probably blitzes a little more. The Steelers probably sit back a little more, but similar games that you've played. How do you win those games? Justin Tucker's comments. Oh, I'm going to aim right. Like, about fucking time. Every kick you've missed has been to the left. So if that's really just it, I'll lose my mind. But, being able to kick field goals, I think just accepting the pace of the game and embracing it is a big part of it. The Ravens are probably the second most prolific. Like I would say the Ravens, the Bills, and the Chiefs are probably the three most prolific offenses. Maybe you can throw the Bengals in there at times, the Eagles, the 49ers. Like those are probably the 5 or so best offenses in football over the last 5 years. And when the Ravens don't get their way, when they can't score 28 points and they can't, make the big chunk plays through the air, they are not willing to embrace the suck and just run the ball and punt and kick field goals. And you simply win this game if your $25 million kicker kicks the ball to the fucking right instead of, down the middle. Whatever. I don't know. That's what his comments were today. He's going to make his aim point to the right, but there's always something. It's just always something. It's always something anxious. It's just the Steelers can come away with that big interception late. And I was going to say the Ravens don't, but they did. Marlon Humphrey did. So a lot of it is just falling on the offensive side of the football and being able to overcome those two similar defenses. Those are the two that have consistently given the Ravens trouble. They got the monkey off their back against the Titans, who used to give them trouble a couple of years ago. I don't know. And yeah, like the penalties to me are just unacceptable. The procedural penalties, especially when Greg Roman was the Ravens offensive coordinator, it was the delay of game. It was causing a lot of that. The Ravens getting late to the line, not being able to bring motion, not giving Lamar time to read. That leads to bad snaps. That leads to false starts. That leads to all of those different things. So they're getting to the line in time. I don't know. They're just anxious. They're just jumpy. They're just not calm. Like, I don't think it's undisciplined. I don't think that's the right word. I think they're very disciplined. You can't be as prolific as they've consistently been over time without being disciplined. But you see these games come through, and I think it's nervousness, anxiousness, and a lack of calm overall. So embrace the suck. Be happy to win 20-17, 15-13. Aim for that sometimes, maybe. I don't know. It feels like that's the next phase. You need to be able to win ugly in the playoffs. And I think that the whole playoff thing is stupid. It's a couple of games. Lamar Jackson has played 3 playoff games in the last 3 years, I believe. 2 last year. Didn't play against the Bengals. The Ravens missed the playoffs before that. And what was it? Chiefs, Texans. Before that was the Bengals. And before that was the Bills. Going back to January of 2021. So it's a small sample size, but it does look familiar. It does look familiar against the Steelers. Those teams pick up on those same things. This is what's going to happen to you in the playoffs. So, You need to be able to win the 13-10 game. You need to embrace the suck, embrace running the football, embrace throwing short, embrace having an average distance of target downfield of 3.3 yards against a team like the Steelers. So, I don't really... The 2-point conversion, this is the second time the Ravens have lost to the Steelers in the last couple of years because of a 2-point conversion. The Mark Andrews, they tried to float the ball over TJ Watt's head, and the ball was too far out for Mark Andrews to get it. This is the second time you've lost. You would have won the first one because of it. And again, we talk about it on the podcast all the time. Burn down the house. The Mike Tomlin comments. We know the Ravens will burn down the house. They will just get desperate, and they'll create chaos, and the Steelers just seem to kind of sit calmly. Aside from the Russ interception, which was so stupid. So stupid. Such a bad idea. Such a bad throw. Did not need to throw that ball. Could have just kicked the field goal. He was the one thing that went outside of what the Steelers do. It would have been 18-10 at that point. So that's kind of where my thoughts are. Roquan Smith walks out of this game with a hamstring injury. I think that is horrible. If that's a long-term injury, that is horrible. If he has to miss up until the bye week, I think that is devastating to the integrity and structure of this Ravens defense. I think that Trenton Simpson, he's done some good things in other areas. He has been horrific spot dropping in hooks and curls. He has no concept of if someone's running by, no clue if there's a tight end running behind him or by him. He's like, I'm just going to go to my landmark and I'm just going to sit there. Nothing else matters. He has not learned how to process yet. I think he's a little in over his head in that regard. It's a really tough thing to do, and it's why we don't see rookie linebackers or young linebackers play consistently well in coverage in the first year, 2, 3 years. We just watched that with Patrick Queen, who was openly struggling about it and saying, that's been a big jump for me, recognizing 3-man route concepts, having to play zone, pick it up, process it, jump to it, which kind of why I wanted the Ravens to re-sign Patrick Queen, but I still have confidence in Trenton Simpson. Not right now at all. I don't think it's going to get better. I would hope that maybe after the bye, you can get a little bump from him as a 22-year-old that wasn't really asked to do that in college either at all. He was kind of an overhang player and played a lot of man coverage and some of those things. So I think Roquan Smith is a big deal. I do want to say Marlon Humphrey is all-pro Marlo. I would say in coverage, like he had the peanut punch year, the fruit punch year where he had forced all those fumbles, but dude is a madman this year. Has been incredible in coverage, doing it in his own way, making clutch plays late in games, turning the football over. Has been so nails. So nails. Him, Hamilton. And I think Roquan Smith is playing a lot better than anyone can really understand, considering there is a linebacker next to him who is an absolute liability in coverage in these zone situations. So my solution would be maybe if Roquan comes back, you take Trenton. This is where I'm wrong. I was like, keep Trenton Simpson on the field. I said that maybe 5 weeks ago. All right, keep Trenton Simpson on the field. Maybe that'll shore up your pass defense. They weren't doing it. I thought it would work. And I think that was a stupid idea by me and would not go well. So now I'd say maybe you want to rotate. I'm curious to see. Trey White played well. Brandon Stevens maybe can bump inside to the slot. He's pretty physical. Maybe he can play a little bit of linebacker for you on third down, maybe. It's not even really an issue on like third down wasn't an issue in this game. It will be against maybe some other teams, but Hamilton and Washington have to play deep right now. I don't know. So hopefully the defense can stabilize, but just figures as soon as they find it felt like the right combination, Roquan Smith's hamstring. So was not at practice today. We'll see what happens. Today was estimated to be like a fake practice, essentially. If you saw any videos, it was like a very light walkthrough. It looked like Ravens don't play till Monday, so this isn't like a real practice day. But if he's unable to go against the Chargers, a team that wants to run the ball, use those tight ends, and have been firing the ball downfield a lot, I think that's a big issue, a big void, and going to create some problems. It's a big step-up opportunity for Trenton Simpson. We'll see. Chris Board, I would expect to play some third down. Malik Harrison, probably the early down, switch to Chris Board and on those passing downs, second and long, third and medium. I think you have to try to rotate through, probably keep Simpson on the field for 100% of plays and see if you can get some growth out of him. But that's an area of concern for me headed into next week. But man, defense played well. You hope you can stop the bleeding there, and you hope you can learn some lessons, right? Those are the things you take away. Those man coverage teams that play middle of the field close, the Chiefs, the Steelers, the Broncos do it too, and the Ravens rip them apart. But that's what's giving you trouble. And you need to embrace the suck moving forward, or it'll be familiar. And the comments here, like, what would you call the sober take on Harbaugh? He's a big reason they're good. He's part of that. He's part of the disappointment too. Like, yeah, I mean, it's tough. Like I said in the beginning, you never get blown out. I think that's a product of John Harbaugh too. Before maybe anything, Lamar Jackson and John Harbaugh, guys that don't get blown out. Harbaugh never really got blown. I would estimate probably since he entered the league, the second or third fewest games decided by 2 scores where he's lost. 2 score, 3 score, especially 3 score losses. It's not a ton. It's like 15 or 20 out of, what has he coached? 270 games or something at this point. So yeah, there's that, but then it just feels stale. I mean, I think a lot of people look at Andy Reid getting fired in Philadelphia, John Harbaugh, a disciple of Andy Reid, and said, well, the Eagles ended up winning a Super Bowl and the Chiefs ended up winning multiple Super Bowls, but it's quite anecdotal. There's a lot of cases where that hasn't worked. Doug Peterson, who won that Super Bowl, look at him in Jacksonville now. So I think that's a nice, anecdotal tale, but over time, the Eagles didn't win one for 2 more coaches, and they did end up doing it. Nick Foles was their quarterback. Their backup quarterback won a Super Bowl. That's why I just think the playoffs are so crazy. When everything's measured in playoff success, it's tough. But the counterpoint to what I'm saying, to play devil's advocate with myself, which I often do, is to say, then why do Tom Brady and Patrick Mahomes always go? So I don't know. I think folks just want to see the Ravens either get blown out, probably not, but either just fucking hardcore lose instead, or don't. Just winning, like, I'll even go as far as, and that's the thing, the Texans game was that way. They did win by running the ball. They did do those things in the divisional round against the Texans. Was it a rookie quarterback? Sure. So you can go rip it apart, but I think people just want to see the Ravens beat the Steelers and or the Chiefs in these same games and be the one that prevails, because they haven't been. The one time the Ravens beat the Chiefs was Odafe Owe forcing a fumble in a game that was in the 30s, and they haven't beaten the Steelers in quite some time. What was the only time they beat them, in 2019 or 2020? Is that the only one? Let me see. Ravens, Steelers at this point. And that was the backups beat them. Let's see here. Is that the last one? Lamar Jackson has only played 1 game at M&T Bank Stadium against the Steelers, which is insane. The Ravens lost 24-28 in that one. No, it was the 2022 game, and it was Anthony. Was that the Anthony Brown game? Is that what it was? I believe. Yep. Tyler Huntley and Anthony Brown, 16-14, 2022. So there's that. That's the one, and then they haven't won since 2019. Maybe that was January 2020. When it was RG3 and those guys in that rainy game. So I think that's about all I've got. If you want to enter the November contest to win a pair of tickets to the Ravens Steelers game on December 21st, comment #November and give a score prediction to any game in the month of November. We'll be announcing the winner after the Eagles game on December 1st. And you must be subscribed to the YouTube channel. So make sure to head over to the Exit 52 YouTube and subscribe. You can comment #November on any video that is in the month of November with a score prediction to win those. Shout out to Clipper City. Going to be doing a listener watch party there at some point, so keep an eye out for that. Clipper City Barber Company in Fells Point, 1716 Thames Street. Go check them out. If you like the beard, you like the haircut, my guy Sam and his crew will go get you right. So shout out to Black Eyed Susan Spices. Go use code EXIT52 and try their awesome hot sauces. They had the Nevermore Hot Sauce Festival at Peabody Brewing in downtown Baltimore. It looked like an awesome event. And shout out to Fed Thrill Sunglasses. Promo code EXIT52. Go check out their Black Friday deals they always have some every single year. So with that, yeah, it's just, can you learn? Can the old dog, Johnny Harbaugh, can you get this team to fix those mistakes? And I don't know, man. It's just, it feels like so much doom and gloom for a 7-4 team that lost by a touchdown in the AFC Championship last year. Where conversely, like the Lions, the other team that lost late in the NFC Championship game and didn't go to the Super Bowl was the Lions. And they're, what are they, 8-2? 8-1, 9-1. What's their record here? What do they got? Let's see. What are the Lions? Lions are 9-1. So a little better than the Ravens there. They've won 8 straight, but you know, 2 teams that lost by 1 score in the championship game. It very easily could have been the matchup last year. I feel like that still is a good shot to be the matchup this year. So, yeah. With that, I will yield. Go ahead and like this video, subscribe on YouTube. Thank you so much to everyone for tuning in. We'll get a preview going. I'll talk with Jake. Jake's out and out in California, so he wasn't able to join me this week, but we will get to it a little later. So thank you so much, and we'll talk to you next time, my friends. Have a good one. See ya.